They were twins, identical in every way the world could see. Same face, same voice, same smile. But kindness doesn't live in the face. It lives in the choices we make when no one is watching. This is a story about two sisters raised on compassion and how one learned to give kindness freely while the other learned how to use it as a weapon. Because sometimes the most dangerous evil doesn't look cruel. Sometimes it looks like goodness. On the day Ginger and Coco Lowe turned 18, the town of Alderbridge threw a party it couldn't afford. It wasn't an official party, not a council-approved festival with bunting and a brass band. Alderbridge didn't have money for that anymore, not since the factory closed, and the highway bypassed the town like it was ashamed to look it in the eye. But Alderbridge did have the kindness board. It was a chalkboard nailed to the side of the community hall, beneath a crooked awning. Someone had painted "Be Kind" in big white letters above it, and every morning people pinned notes to it with little wooden pegs. Need someone to pick up meds, knee surgery, can't drive. Free baby clothes size 0 to 6 months. Looking for help with a leaking roof. Will trade homemade bread. If you're lonely, come have tea with me, afternoon's back porch. When the board first went up, it was a novelty. When times got harder, it became a lifeline. And when Ginger and Coco were little girls, their mother used to take them there on Saturdays and say, "This is what we do when we can't fix everything. We fix one thing." Ginger remembered that sentence the way some people remembered prayers. Coco remembered it too, but the words settled differently in her. Their father used to call them mirror girls, because when they were younger, they could stand side by side and fool strangers. The same dark hair, the same pale freckles on their noses, the same wide eyes that made adults soften. Only their mother could always tell. She said it wasn't in their faces, it was in their hands. "Ginger's hands open," she'd say, turning Ginger's palms up. "Coco's hands hold tight." It sounded like a joke when they were small. It didn't feel like one anymore. On their 18th birthday, the community hall was decorated. Plastic tablecloths were mismatched, and someone's aunt had made a mountain of scones so tall it leaned. People hugged them like the twins had done something heroic merely by existing in a town that had slowly been forgotten. "You girls are the future," Mrs. Reddy said, squeezing their shoulders. Her hands were warm and trembling. "Don't leave us, okay?" Ginger smiled and promised, because she didn't know how not to promise. Coco smiled too, bright as a coin. They sat at the front side by side and listened to speeches. There were stories of how Ginger once sat with old Mr. Coetzee all afternoon when his wife died, how Coco organized a food drive after the floods. Their mother watched from the side, eyes shining, hands clasped. She looked proud and tired in the same breath. When it was time for the cake, Ginger leaned toward Coco and whispered, "It's too much." Coco's eyes flicked across the room, calculating. "It's not too much. It's ours. It's like we're being crowned." "And why shouldn't we be?" Coco whispered back. "We've earned it." Ginger didn't argue. She didn't want to ruin the softness in the air, that rare thing in Alderbridge where people forgot their worry for an hour and felt like maybe they could still belong to something good. Later, after the last paper cup had been thrown away and the last car had rolled out into the darkness, their mother came home and sat at the kitchen table, her bones aching. Ginger poured her tea while Coco took out her phone, thumb moving quickly. Their mother looked between them. "Promise me something," she said quietly. Ginger said, "Anything." Coco didn't speak. Their mother's gaze landed on Coco. "Not anything," she corrected. "Promise me you'll be kind when it's not convenient." Coco smiled, sweet and practiced. "Always." Ginger meant it when she echoed it. That night, Ginger lay in bed listening to the town's silence. Alderbridge quiet was different from city quiet. It wasn't absence, it was waiting. She heard Coco's door open sometime after midnight, heard footsteps down the hall, soft and careful. Ginger sat up. She heard the back door latch, then nothing. The next morning, the kindness board was missing. Not the notes, the entire board. The chalkboard, the awning, the nails. It had been torn down like a tooth. People gathered outside the hall in shock with their hands on hips and mouths open. "This is low," someone muttered. "It's not just wood," Mrs. Reddy said fiercely. "It's how we ask for help." Ginger stood in the crowd, cold creeping up her arms. Coco stood beside her, arms folded, her face composed like grief. Ginger turned to her. "Did you?" Coco cut her off with a look that said, "Don't be stupid in public." They went home and told their mother what happened. She listened, horrified, and pressed her hand to her mouth. "That board," she whispered, "that board it's the town's heart." Coco shrugged. "Someone probably stole it for firewood." Ginger stared at her. "That board had people's needs on it." "Needs don't keep you warm," Coco said too lightly. "Come on, we'll help make a new one." And she said it with such convincing warmth that their mother visibly relaxed. She even smiled. Ginger wanted to relax too. She wanted to believe. But when Coco turned away, Ginger saw something flicker in her eyes, something like satisfaction. That afternoon, Coco volunteered to run supplies. She said she'd go to the hardware store in the next town to get a new board, new paint, new pegs. She'd fix it. "Thank you," their mother said, almost tearful. Ginger offered to go too, but Coco's wouldn't have it. "I can handle it." After Coco left, Ginger helped Mrs. Reddy write a list of the people who'd pinned notes that week, trying to remember who needed what. It felt like trying to rebuild a fire after the wind had scattered the embers. By evening, Coco returned with timber and paint and a cardboard box of shiny pegs. She unloaded it all in the hall with a flourish. "See," she said breezy, "problem solved." People praised her, they hugged her, and posted about her on social media. Someone wrote, "Coco Low, you angel." Ginger painted quietly beside her, hands sticky with white paint, and tried not to notice that the new board was smaller than the old one, that the awning was gone, that Coco insisted on placing it inside the hall, so it doesn't get stolen again. Inside meant it was only available when the hall was open. Inside meant it was controlled. Ginger opened her mouth once, twice, then closed it. Coco's eyes were on her like a predator. That was the first time Ginger began to understand. Coco didn't hate kindness. She loved it. She loved the way it made people look at her. Over the next few weeks, Coco became a name people said with gratitude. She started a kindness club. She made flyers, organized meetings. She created a social media page and got local businesses in the next town to donate expired canned goods and posed with them for photos. "Kindness is a movement," Coco said, standing at the front of the hall like she was giving a sermon. "And movements need leaders." People clapped. Ginger clapped too, because clapping was easier than standing up and asking, "Why do you need to lead kindness?" In the background, Ginger did what she'd always done. Delivered soup, sat with lonely people, fixed small things without posting about them. She didn't think of it as goodness. She thought of it as breathing. But the more Coco shone, the more Ginger faded. And then the trouble started. It began small like rot in a corner. Mr. Coetzee accused Mrs. Reddy of taking more than her share of donated groceries. Mrs. Reddy burst into tears in the hall, shaking, insisting she'd only taken what she needed. A week later, a woman named Talitha found a note pinned on the board inside the hall, under Coco's supervision, that said, "Talitha, we all know what you did. Stop pretending you deserve help." Talitha's face paled. "I never," she whispered. "I didn't do anything." People stared at Talitha and whispered. The note disappeared after Coco plucked it off and said, "Oh my word, this is awful. Someone is being cruel." Ginger watched Coco fold the note carefully and slide it into her pocket. Later, Ginger asked, "Why did you keep it?" Coco blinked at her innocently. It's evidence. She said, evidence of what? That someone's trying to sabotage us, Coco said. Trying to ruin kindness. Ginger's stomach tightened. Or someone's just hurting people. Coco's smile sharpened. Same thing. The notes became more frequent, messages designed to sting, to isolate. Stop asking, get a job. Maybe if you weren't such a burden. Everyone knows you're lying. People started coming to the hall less. They didn't want to risk humiliation. The board, meant to be a place of asking and giving, became a place of fear. Ginger confronted Coco one night in their bedroom, where they still shared a wall like they always had, even though they were grown enough to have their own worlds. Coco, Ginger said softly, this isn't right. Coco sat on her bed scrolling. What isn't? The notes, the accusations. People are scared. Coco didn't look up. People are always scared. That's what makes them manageable. Ginger's throat went dry. Manageable? Coco's eyes lifted then, slow. They were the same as Ginger's and yet not. You think kindness is about giving, Coco said. It's not. It's about power. Ginger shook her head, trying to laugh it off. No, it's about love. Coco's smile was gentle, almost tender. Love is a leash, Ginger. People will do anything for the person they think is good. Ginger's skin prickled. You don't mean that. Coco leaned forward, elbows on her knees. I do. And you know what? I'm tired of pretending you don't see it. Ginger's heart pounded. She remembered their mother's words. Ginger's hands open. Coco's hands hold tight. You've been doing this, Ginger whispered. You wrote the cruel notes. Coco didn't deny it. She didn't even flinch. They needed consequences, Coco said. People take and take. They become lazy with help. If you shame them, they stop asking. Then the resources stay with the deserving. Who decides who's deserving? Ginger demanded, voice cracking. Coco tilted her head. Me. Someone has to. Ginger stepped back like Coco had slapped her. You're hurting people. I'm improving them, Coco said calmly. You're the one who can't handle reality. Ginger's mouth trembled. Why? Coco's eyes narrowed slightly, and for the first time something raw slipped through her control. Because nobody remembers quiet kindness, she hissed. Nobody remembers the one who helps in the shadows. They remember the one who saves them, the hero, the leader, the face. Her voice smoothed again. I'm giving this town something to believe in, and they'll pay me back. Ginger couldn't breathe. That night, she lay awake staring at the ceiling while Coco's phone glowed across the room like a watchful eye. Ginger didn't want to believe her twin was evil. Evil was a storybook thing. It wore horns. It didn't wear your sister's face, but Coco's words sat on Ginger's chest like stones. People are manageable. Ginger thought about the board being stolen, the replacement being smaller, moved indoors. Kindness controlled, kindness measured, kindness used like a tool. And in the morning, Ginger made a decision. She wouldn't fight Coco with anger. She'd fight her with kindness. Not the kind that was soft and easily bent. The kind that was brave. Ginger started with listening. Instead of asking people to write their needs on Coco's board, she began visiting houses quietly, bringing a notebook and a thermos of tea. She sat with Talitha in her kitchen and said, "Tell me what you need. Not what you're ashamed of needing. Just what you need." Talitha cried for 20 minutes before she could speak. She gave Ginger her list, then moved on to Mr. Coetzee. She found his cupboards almost bare. Ginger sat on Mrs. Reddy's porch and learned she'd been skipping meals to feed her grandson. The more Ginger listened, the clearer it became. Alderbridge wasn't full of greedy people, it was full of people trying not to drown. Ginger began organizing help without the board. She created small circles, neighbors helping neighbors. Quiet trades, private messages, no public notes. It was slower, yes, but it was safer, and the more it grew, the less Coco's Kindness Club mattered. Oh, Coco noticed, make no mistake. She cornered Ginger outside the hall after a meeting, her smile still bright for the others, but her grip on Ginger's wrist was like a clamp. "What are you doing?" Coco whispered through her teeth. Ginger kept her voice steady. "Helping." "No," Coco said, "you're stealing my project." "It isn't yours," Ginger said softly. Coco's eyes flashed. "Everything is mine if people think it is." Ginger looked at her twin. So familiar, so frightening. Then she said, "Not anymore." For the first time, Coco's composure cracked into something cold. "You can't beat me," Coco said quietly. "People love me." Ginger's voice trembled, but she held it. "People love the version of you that you show them." Coco leaned in close, breath warm against Ginger's ear. "Then I'll show them a version of you they won't love." The next week, Alderbridge turned on Ginger. It began with whispers, then posts online. Someone anonymous accused Ginger of diverting donations. Some claimed she'd taken money meant for the elderly, and one person wrote, "Ginger Lowe is jealous of her sister and trying to sabotage kindness." The irony was sharp enough to cut. Ginger walked into the grocery store and saw people stop talking when she entered. She saw eyes slide away and felt the town's warmth turn to winter. Her mother, confused and worried, asked, "Ginger, did you do something?" Ginger's heart broke at the doubt in her mother's voice. "No," Ginger whispered, "but someone wants you to think I did." Their mother looked at Coco. Coco placed a hand on her chest, shocked. "How could anyone accuse Ginger? She's my sister." Ginger's jaw clenched. That night, Ginger sat on the edge of her bed and said, "You're doing this." Coco lay back, hands behind her head, looing satisfied. "I told you." "You're ruining me." Coco turned her head, eyes gleaming. "You're ruining yourself by refusing to fall in line." Ginger's hands shook. "Why do you hate me?" Coco's expression softened in a way that almost looked like sadness. "I don't hate you," she said. "I envy you." Coco's voice dropped. "You give and it makes you happy. You don't need praise. You don't need to win. You don't hunger." Coco sat up slowly. "I do, and I'm tired of being second place to your purity." Ginger swallowed. "So you'll destroy me?" Coco smiled. "If I can't be the good twin, I'll make you the bad one." Ginger felt something inside her settle. She stood. "I'm not fighting you anymore." Coco laughed softly. "Good." Ginger shook her head. "Not like that." And she walked out. Ginger knew she couldn't win in public. Coco was too polished, too beloved, and too good at performing goodness. So Ginger went to the one place Coco didn't control: private truth. She returned to the people she'd been helping quietly and told them everything, not in accusation or anger, but in honest, trembling words. "I don't know if you'll believe me, but I need you to know why things have gotten so cruel. And if you don't believe me, I'll still help you, because that's who I am." Kindness, Ginger learned, did something strange when it was steady. It made people brave. Talitha said, "I believe you." Mrs. Reddy said, "I've seen Coco's eyes when no one is watching." Mr. Coetzee said, "That girl's kindness always felt like she expected interest back." One by one, people began to speak, quietly at first, then together. They started sharing screenshots of cruel messages they'd received from the Kindness Club account, messages Coco claimed were fake. They compared the writing, the phrasing, the way Coco used certain words. They remembered moments. Coco insisting donations be kept under her key. Coco choosing who got what. Coco punishing people who asked twice. A pattern formed, and patterns were harder to deny than single accusations. Ginger didn't lead the charge. She didn't post anything, and she didn't call Coco names. She simply kept helping, kept showing up, kept listening, and the town began to do something Alderbridge had forgotten how to do. It began to hold someone accountable. The confrontation happened on a rainy Thursday. The community hall was full, damp jackets steaming, voices low but tense. Coco stood at the front like a queen with a microphone. "This is disgusting," she said, eyes wide with righteous hurt. "Someone is trying to destroy everything I've built for you. Someone is jealous." Mrs. Reddy stood up. Her voice shook. "Coco, why did the Kindness Club send me a message saying I should stop asking for help because I'm a burden?" Coco's smile didn't move. It didn't. Talitha stood. "Then why does the message come from your account?" Mr. Coetzee stood. "And why does the board only open when you're here?" Others stood too, a wave rising. Coco's eyes darted. She laughed lightly. "This is ridiculous. People can fake messages. People can lie. People—" Ginger stood last. She didn't want to. Her legs felt like water, but she stood. Coco's gaze snapped to her, sharp as a blade. "There she is, the victim." Ginger's voice was quiet, but carried. "Coco, stop." Coco's smile faltered. "Stop what?" "Stop using kindness as a weapon," Ginger said. "Stop making help conditional on worship." A murmur ran through the room. Coco's face tightened. "Listen to her. She's always been dramatic. She's always—" Ginger lifted her phone. "I recorded you," Ginger said softly. "That night you told me love is a leash, that people are manageable." The room went still. Coco's eyes widened, and for the first time fear entered them. Ginger pressed play. Coco's own voice filled the hall, calm, cruel, and certain. "People are manageable. Love is a leash. Nobody remembers quiet kindness. If I can't be the good twin, I'll make you the bad one." Silence crashed down. Coco's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. "That," she stammered, "that's out of context." Ginger's eyes filled with tears. "What context makes it okay?" Coco looked around, searching for allies, for worship, but the faces staring back at her were no longer soft. They were hurt, and hurt had turned into something stronger. Understanding. Coco's voice rose. "Fine, fine. You want truth? Here it is. You people are weak. You cling to help like it's a right. You don't appreciate anything. You drain and drain." A gasp filled the room, then a sob. Coco heard them and seemed to realize too late what she'd shown. Her mask had slipped, and once people saw it, they couldn't unsee it. Coco's eyes snapped back to Ginger, furious. "You did this!" Ginger shook her head, tears slipping down. "You did. I just stopped covering for you." Coco stepped toward her like she might strike her. Their mother moved between them, suddenly trembling but fierce. "Coco," she whispered. "My girl, what happened to you?" For a second, Coco's face flickered with something that might have been pain. Then it hardened again, like ice forming. "You chose her," Coco hissed. Their mother's voice broke. "I chose kindness." Coco laughed, sharp and ugly. "Then keep it. See how far it gets you." And she shoved past the crowd and ran out into the rain. In the weeks after, Alderbridge felt bruised. People apologized to Ginger in quiet, shamefaced ways. "I'm sorry," Talitha said. "I should have trusted you." Ginger hugged her. "You were scared." Mrs. Reddy brought Ginger a loaf of bread and said, "We let her make us cruel." Ginger shook her head. "We let her make us silent." Their mother grieved in a way that was strange to watch, like mourning someone who was still alive. "She was my baby too," she whispered one night, staring at the empty chair at the table. Ginger sat beside her. "I know." "You think she's evil," their mother said, her voice cracking. Ginger swallowed. "I think she chose evil. There's a difference." Their mother looked at her, eyes wet. "How can you still be kind after what she did?" Ginger stared down at her own hands, open hands, and thought about it. Because kindness wasn't soft. Not really. Kindness was not being fooled into becoming cruel. Kindness was refusing to let someone else's darkness dictate your light. Ginger said quietly, "Because if I stop, she wins." Coco left town for a while. No one knew exactly where. People speculated as people do. Some said she'd gone to the city to start over. Others said she'd found another place to be adored. Ginger didn't look for her. She focused on rebuilding what Coco had poisoned. They put the kindness board back outside. Bigger this time. Under a stronger awning, bolted into brick, but they changed one thing. They added a second board beside it, painted blue, with the words, "You can ask without shame." And beneath it, a small box with pens and a note. "If you don't want to sign your name, you don't have to." Ginger watched the first anonymous note go up. Just 3 words. "Need someone. Please." Ginger didn't cry until she got home. Months passed, and Alderbridge learned again. It learned that kindness without boundaries could be hijacked. It learned that kindness with courage could survive. And Ginger learned something too. Being the good twin wasn't a title you were born with. It was a decision you made every day. One night, Ginger came home to find a letter slipped under the door. No stamp. No return address. Just her name in handwriting so familiar it made her stomach drop. She opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a single page. "Ginger, you always wanted me to be someone I wasn't. You always looked at me like I was broken. Maybe I am, but you broke me too. By being so good, it made me invisible. They love you now. Enjoy it, but remember, kindness is still a leash. I'll see you when you least expect it. C." Ginger sat on the floor with the letter in her lap, breathing hard. Fear rose like cold water. Then she heard a soft knock and froze. Another knock. She stood slowly and looked through the peephole. No one was at the door, but she opened it anyway, because she refused to live locked behind fear. On the doorstep sat a small cardboard box. Inside were wooden pegs, old worn ones, the kind that had once held the original kindness board's notes. Her throat tightened. Coco had kept them like trophies. Ginger carried the box inside and set it on the table. Her mother came in from the living room, saw Ginger's face and whispered, "Is it her?" Ginger nodded. Her mother's hand flew to her mouth. Ginger unfolded the letter and read it aloud, her voice steady even as tears slipped down. When she finished, her mother sank into a chair. "She's threatening you," her mother whispered. Ginger looked at the pegs, then at the letter, then at her own hands. "I don't think she's threatening me," Ginger said quietly. "What do you mean?" Ginger swallowed. "I think she's reminding me she exists because she needs me to be afraid. She needs me to hate her. She needs me to become like her." Her mother's eyes filled. "What will you do?" Ginger stood and carried the box of pegs to the kitchen counter. She washed them one by one, as if they were dishes from a stormy night, warm water, soap, and patience. Her mother watched, confused. Ginger said softly, "I'm going to do what she can't understand." The next morning, Ginger took the old pegs to the community hall. She didn't show the letter. She didn't make a speech. She simply replaced the new shiny pegs with the worn ones, one by one, as if restoring something sacred. Mrs. Reddy asked, "Where did those come from?" Ginger smiled gently. "A reminder." "A reminder of what?" Ginger pinned up the first note of the day, a small card she'd written herself. "Kindness is not control." Then she added another beneath it. "Kindness is not a performance." Then another. "Kindness is a choice, even when it hurts." People read them, and something shifted again. Because now Alderbridge knew what Ginger knew. The opposite of evil wasn't goodness, it was courage. The last scene came in spring, when the town's jacarandas bloomed purple and the air smelled like dust. Ginger was closing the hall when she saw a girl, about 13 or 14, standing near the kindness board. She was thin, wearing a hoodie and hands shoved in her pockets. "Can I help you?" Ginger asked gently. The girl hesitated, then stepped closer to the board, her eyes scanning the notes like she was hungry. Ginger stayed still, giving her space. Finally, the girl whispered, "Is it true you can ask without shame?" Ginger's chest tightened. "Yes," she said softly. "It's true." The girl swallowed. "My mom. She doesn't get out of bed some days. She says we're fine, but we're not. I didn't want anyone to know." Ginger nodded, slow. "Thank you for telling me." The girl's eyes darted toward Ginger, suspicious. "Are you going to tell people?" "Only the people who can help, and you can choose who those are." The girl's shoulders sagged with relief so deep it looked like grief. Ginger reached into the pen box and handed her a card. "Write what you need. You can write it any way you want." The girl took the card with trembling fingers. Then she wrote in small letters, "Need groceries. Need someone to check on my mom. Please don't judge. She didn't sign it. Ginger pinned it up herself." Then Ginger looked at the girl and said, "Do you want to come with me while we get groceries? You don't have to do this alone." The girl blinked fast, fighting tears. "You'd do that?" "Yes." Behind them, the kindness board creaked softly in the breeze, notes fluttering like small white flags of surrender and hope. Ginger thought of Coco's letter. Kindness is a leash, and she understood finally what Coco had gotten wrong. Kindness wasn't a leash, it was a hand open, offered and brave enough to keep offering, even after it had been bitten. Ginger walked with the girl down the steps and into the bright spring afternoon, where the town, wounded but learning, kept choosing, one small act at a time, to be better. And somewhere, perhaps, Coco watched from a distance and felt the familiar sting of being unable to control what she didn't understand, because Ginger's kindness wasn't there to win, it was there to heal. And healing, unlike power, could not be stolen. Kindness is often mistaken for weakness. But as you've just heard, true kindness takes courage. It takes strength to keep your hands open after they've been hurt, to keep your heart soft when it would be easier to harden. Evil doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers in familiar voices. Sometimes it hides behind praise, applause, and good intentions. And yet, real kindness doesn't need control. It doesn't demand loyalty. It doesn't ask to be admired. It simply shows up. If this story moved you, let it be a reminder. You don't have to be loud to be good. You don't have to be seen to matter. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose kindness anyway. God bless you.